Hi everyone. Today I have here my friend Eduardo, who's a fellow native in the DMV area. So I just want to bring him on today. So welcome to the show, Eduardo.
Hey, thanks a lot, Samir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've gotten to meet and talk a few times, but um, tell the audience who are you? What do you do? Where do you come from?
Um, well, I am originally from Puerto Rico, born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I moved to the DMV about 20 years ago. I became a consultant, and I've been in IT for most of my career. I've done uh, data architecture, I've done implementation and systems design, database administration, and lately I'm focusing a lot on data analytics. And about real estate, about a few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, before the pandemic started, I started thinking I needed to diversify my situation. I didn't want to be an employee. It's the it's basically the rich dad poor dad in you of like, okay, I paid my dues, I've been a good boy, I attended college, I got a good job, it pays well, but I want to build something for myself. I want to build wealth and the so-called generational wealth, and that's what I got into real estate. Purchased a few properties around the area. I've sold a few properties around the area. I've done a little bit of wholesaling. Right now, most recently, I just opened an Airbnb back home in Puerto Rico.
Nice.
We Yeah, we can get into the details later, because that's a fun one to talk about. I have another property under contract there, but at the same time, I'm keeping a foot here in the area. Like yesterday, I was in Hagerstown, Maryland, working with a potential partner where we may acquire. We were looking at uh, uh, four properties to acquire. They're multifamilies. One that has like fire damage, and three others that are already renting. That they're already producing, and just trying to see if that makes sense for either buy it as a partnership or buy it individually, and we just support each other. So keep it busy all around.
Love it. Yeah, you're doing so much. You got stuff here. You got stuff in Hagerstown, Puerto Rico. That's you're kind of all over geographically, at least.
Diversification.
There we go. So,
Diversification, right?
so like, is that kind of was that your goal when you got into it, right? Like when you thought about real estate? I mean, did you think you were, hey, I want to buy something in Puerto Rico. I want to also own here, maybe a little bit further away from here. Well, how'd that kind of look?
So So I did want to come in and buy stuff here locally. Like my first property that I bought as an investment was in Baltimore.
Okay.
And, I live in Alexandria. So Baltimore is about an hour and 15 for me. And the reason I went there is the numbers just made perfect sense. My very first deal, I got a property for $62,000 and I was renting for 1,050. So
Well
when you
above the
look
1%.
exactly way above the 1%, but when I looked at it, I'm like, holy gosh, like this is amazing, like
I'm gonna get
I'm
rich.
gonna be rich. Exactly. And then of course I think that as I bought that property, everybody else got into it, and now those same properties are being sold for like 110 and whatnot. But that's when I started realizing, okay, this is something that I can do. And I'm very handy. I've always been. So when I buy my properties, if I need to roll up my sleeves and remodel a bathroom, I will do it. And I think that because of my financial background, I always make an educated decision of should I do or should I contract? Should I do this myself? How long it's gonna take me? How good is it gonna look? Because I can do a bathroom, but it's never gonna be perfect, and it's never gonna be even to my standard. There are things that I will do if I need to save $1,000. I will lay floor, but only if I need to save $1,000. If I can find a guy that will do it for three or four, boom, he gets it.
Right.
So it's that because that financial background is in me, it has been a very interesting ride for me. The situation about Puerto Rico was happenstance, and it was um, probably the power of networking and the power of exposing yourself, of letting others who you are and what you do. It's the self promoting, the self marketing, because that one I got we're both in sub two, and I went to sub two, and I then I introduced myself when I first got in and say, hey, I'm Puerto Rican and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And through that first post, a few people reach out to me like, hey, I'm also from Puerto Rico, or I also invest in Puerto Rico and whatnot. And through that effort, I connected with this one person back in November. And we talked for about 45 minutes. He also has properties there. So I'm like, oh, gee, I wish I could have properties there too. But I haven't started. And I'm Puerto Rican, born and raised, and I speak the language. English is my second language. I still consider myself a foreigner, even though I've been here for 20 years. And that interaction didn't lead to anything until 3 months later. She calls me and she said, hey, I have a property. Do you want in? And I'm like, what? Like, after just having one conversation. So it was the craziest thing ever. And I'm like, well, she sent me the details. I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, it looks great. Let's go. And she's like, well, we close next Thursday in Puerto Rico.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like, okay. So we had less than 5 days to put an operating agreement together. I didn't know this person. I mean, and we just had to see if it clicked. And we clicked immediately. We had very similar goals. She also doesn't live in Puerto Rico, but she was born and raised in Puerto Rico, in the island. And we have very similar goals, very similar like family values, and that helped us as partners get on the same page extremely quickly. In 5 days, we had a company, an LLC registered with the territory of Puerto Rico, like with the local government. We had our bank account. I literally like flew in on a Wednesday, and on a Thursday at 6 a.m., I'm picking her up at the airport. We went to see the property for the first time because I'd only seen pictures. And then by 10 a.m., we were the owners of this property.
Wow.
And once I was in the island, that it was like all hands on deck. I needed to super use and leverage my network to then find all of my contractors. And I've been blessed enough that I found an amazing team. Now I have people that they know that I don't live on the island. They know that I pay by electronically, that they know that I'm not going to meet them there, that I'm going to give them a code to the lockbox, and they have to take pictures before and after. And so just finding the right people is hard, and finding the right people that understands, that are treating you as a remote investor, it's even harder. But it's definitely doable. And that's what's allowing me to be successful. We just opened up like 2 weeks ago, and we have had already 2 bookings, and bookings are now picking up because now we have we received our first 5-star review on Airbnb.
Congrats, man. That's huge. There you go. Huge, that's the first huge one, right? It's that first one that's so important. So amazing.
Tell me about it. The first guest didn't leave us a review, and we're like, oh,
come on.
Come on. And she just ghosted us. And I'm like, okay. It was the second one that, thank God, gave us a review, and that helps with it. We got our first whole month. August is fully booked on a single, on a single rental, on a single booking. So that one is now getting stable, which is good. Now I can go into the back burner and focus on the next deal.
Right. I mean, and it's what you said there, right? It's that it was the power of networking, but also telling others what you are looking for, who you are, right? Because you'll never know who is listening. And then of course it's not about just that interaction, right? Because that deal came after the fact, right? Is that it was maybe even like, I'm guessing months later, right? Then after that initial interaction, right? So it's just
many months later. And I gotta be honest, this thing that we're talking about, it sounds so simple, but because of my personality, it has been the hardest part at all. Like the self-promoting, just telling people, it's like, hey, I'm an investor. I do this. I buy houses. Like, I don't like to talk about myself. I'm an extrovert all day, every day. But to talk about myself to others, what I do, and say, hey, I know my stuff. I can underwrite a deal in 2 seconds. I can look at a property, and in 2 seconds, I know how to do that. And I'm really good at it. So if you ever need that part as a partner, no, I don't talk about it. And I learned that I need to let people know what my skills and my strengths are, because maybe they're going through a deal and they say, hey, your skills are complementary to mine, and let's go. And because I'm telling you, like my partner's name is Brenda, and she's amazing. I love her a lot. We have become really good friends as a result of that. But we literally had just one conversation that was like 40 minutes, and she was telling me that she has where she had her Airbnbs and she does fix and flips in Chicago, and that was it. That's all I knew about her, and she knew that I do the same thing in the DMV, and that she took a risk on me, and I took a risk on her. Like it's like let's go. And there are a lot of leaps of faith that you have to do, and when someone tells you do the self promotion, even if it feels unnatural, even if it feels weird, I think you gotta do it. You gotta expose yourself up there.
You have to, and it is uncomfortable, and I'm being engineer, I feel it too.
Right.
So yeah, it's strange, right? We kind of just do the work and we don't talk about it. So and it's interesting, but you have to overcome that fear. And like these things that you mentioned, right? Like you're managing from remotely. You've told the contractors, hey, we're doing everything electronically. I'm not going to be there, so don't expect that out of me, right? And I'm setting an upfront contract, and I'm telling you upfront that this is how I work, this is how I kind of do things. Has that always been the case when you first got into real estate, or is that something you picked up over time and learned these things?
So no, my very first property in Baltimore, that one was me. I was a property manager, I was a contractor, and I did everything until I got tired of driving an hour and 15 minutes each way for little stuff. And I realized this is unsustainable. And I think that maybe again, this is the engineering in us. It's like, well, I can do it. Why would I pay someone to do that? And that's someone like, well, I'm gonna spend the whole, for example, if I was going on a Friday, or if I leave my home at 9 and I get there by 10:30ish, and I work for 2 hours and I come back, I just spent basically my whole day on small stuff. And that's when I started realizing I need to transition to it. And that gave me that first opportunity where I found my team, I found my electrician, I found my plumber. The same thing in Baltimore, like same thing I did in Puerto Rico. You find your team who's going to be your crew, that is your go-to person for any issues. And I slowly started transitioning to them. But when I started doing Puerto Rico, that's when I had no option, because I can't fly to Puerto Rico if there's an issue. And that's when I had to just be extremely savvy, even when I'm meeting people about how to do. Because when I was there for about a week when I bought the property. I was there for 5 days. So a lot of people that are with me, I met there person to person. But right now, some of them that are on my team, I just met them over the phone. There were referrals. There's someone I found on Facebook. And you just have to use your business acumen and your gut feeling and say, this person sounds good or this person doesn't. Because in my case, I'm letting people into a home that is fully furnished. I just put everything and I'm giving them a code. And even though I have cameras, I'm not checking the cameras 100% of the time. I don't have the time to do that. So if they steal from me, I just have to do an insurance claim. So you have to do a lot. It takes a lot of like gut feeling, while at the same time just trusting people. And if you see a red flag, just get them out immediately. Don't hold on. Because I started doing that with someone who I would commission them. I had an electrician. I would commission them to do a job, and the guy would finish the job, and the guy said, "When can I get my money?" And an hour later, he said, "Where's my money coming?" Until I got to a point I had to have a conversation with him and say, "Hey, you gotta trust me. I'm trusting you." And that to me was a red flag, but I kept putting up with it a little by little. And then he installed a water heater for me. I'll give you an example. He installed a water heater for me, and he installed it incorrectly. And he did not go back to fix it. And these are things that, again, my trust has to be almost like right now, like 100%. Like I have to have a zero tolerance for things that I can see as red flags. And that's how I'm managing this part of the business. Like, because I'm not there, my trust level is there. Like, if I see as a red flag, I start looking for someone else that is going to be my person, because I'm not there to fix it. My properties that I have here in the DMV, hey, you know what? If that electrician doesn't work out, it's okay. Because I'm a couple of hours away. I can drive. I can fix it myself. There, I can't. I don't have that luxury.
Right. And actually, this is why I'm actually a huge proponent of out of state investing, or, investing in not in your backyard. Because of that, it forces you to be a better business owner, right?
I
Forces you
think
to put
so.
systems in place. It forces you to make quick decisions. Hey, like, I'm not going to go to fly, just to fix a toilet. You know what I mean? Like, I need to have people in place. I need to make sure that I can make and act quickly, right? Because then your business suffers if you can't make those quick decisions, right? And if you're waiting on 2 weeks for, a toilet to get fixed, well, hey, that's 2 weeks worth of listings, right? Like that's a lot. So yeah, that's what you're saying there is so spot on, and so important. But for anyone that does manage in their backyard, treat it like a business, right?
Yeah.
Don't go out there and fix things, right? Your time is better served elsewhere, unless that is the part of the business you love, right? And in that case, find somebody else for the other parts of the business, right? Because I know some
And
people who love laying tile and who would prefer that over, other aspects, and which is fine, but maybe hire somebody else for the other aspects then,
not me.
right?
I don't like. Again, I know how to do everything. My grandfather, he was a handyman of sorts, and he taught me. And I got power tools. I got a whole shed full of power tools. But Puerto Rico, even if I can get on a plane, I'm not gonna use my suitcase to fly my power tools. You know, luggage is expensive. Anybody that travels, so it really forces you. Like, I gotta pick the right person for the right job. And right now, developing the systems, super important. Like, we talked about systems that I have with my people, my handymans, my crew. Now, my partner and I, we also have systems. She's in Chicago. She's not my next door neighbor. So we have systems. We use Trello, we use OneNote to communicate, we put tasks for ourselves, we have weekly statuses. Those systems are just as important as the ones that I develop in my contractors on site. Because that allows me, like, for example, I'm going to go on vacation very soon, and I'm going to be gone for a whole week, and I'm going camping at the beach with no internet. That my cell phone reception is really bad. And it's great because I'm leaving, but my partner and I, we had a meeting this morning, and I let her know, it's like, this is what's pending, that it's not typically on my plate, that she now has to carry the load. And these are all the passwords, these are all the people, these are all the contacts, and they are loaded on Trello, so she knows what to do. So it allows me that flexibility of being the business owner and leveraging the partnership, synergy that we so crave. Like, I don't have to be everything. That's why you go into business. And yes, I'm perhaps my skills are better suited to do the rehab of a property than my partner skills, but she can call my plumber and do the same thing. So the business itself is generating money when I'm not there. The systems that's what engineers are good at. We see a problem. It's okay. How can I make this a repeatable process so I don't have to do it again? Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking that and implementing it, and then backing out from it and see if it works.
Yeah, it's so important what you just said there, right? A few nuggets there. And for anybody who thinks, like, how can I add value? What skills do I have, right? Like, that's an amazing skill, right? Being able to, like, understand systems, wanting to, create those processes. I can't tell you how many business owners I know who, like, everything is just like fly off, they're just making decisions on the fly. They have no set procedures, nothing, right? And they're successful. However, if they had somebody else, like, has that kind of natural tendency, they would go to the moon, right? Like, their business would skyrocket because of that, right? So it's one of those that it's just finding translatable skills. And I think, having a W-2, we both do, and that really, a lot of skills translate. It's just identifying what those skills are and what your strengths are, right? So
You see, that's actually, that you said, is very important. For example, talking about systems. So I manage my rents, long-term rentals, through Avail. I think it's avail.co, the website. And I love it because it collects rent automatically. It sends invoices to people automatically. It sends reminders. It assesses late charges. It does everything through that system. I know folks that have 30 plus units and they connect it through Cash App. They're like, oh, it's fantastic. It comes to my account. But again, it's the thinking of systems. If a tenant doesn't pay you via Cash App or an ACH transfer to your bank, you have to be the one keeping tabs of like, oh, Jesus, was, Mary late? Was John late? Do I need to assess a late fee? Did they pay or they don't? Because Cash App just receives the money. It sounds like it's a system, but it's not. It's just a convenience tool. On the other hand, I have a system. If my tenants are late, I'm not sweating it. The system will send a billion reminders to them. Whenever the day that it's time to assess late charges, it automatically assesses late charges. That's systems is so important because I don't sweat when my people have to pay. When the lease is coming up for renewal, the system does that automatically. And that to me is, again, and I have friends that are like, oh, I do that in Excel. I'm like, yeah, but now you're preoccupying your mind with a lot of things once a month. You have 30 doors. Once a month, you got to make sure that all 30 doors paid. You got to figure out, you got to call them, you got to follow up. Like, no, personally, I like to come in, develop a system, and then that's it. My system right now works for 2 doors. It will work for 30. If I add 30 tomorrow, I'm still not going to worry about whether people are paying or not. Whenever they don't pay and it's past a certain time, I will get the emails, and that's when I get involved and I have to call my tenants or whatnot. But it's developing the system is a really important part. And to me, being a consultant, that's all I did. It's looking about how to make executives more efficient. And that's how I'm treating myself. I'm that executive that I'm consulting to myself. It's like, how can I spend more time, looking for deals? How can I spend more time looking at properties to acquire, calling money lenders and see who will lend to me and what kind of structure I can get for different deals. Then figuring out whether someone paid me or not.
Right, exactly. And it's like, as you scale, you don't want to increase your workload either, right? So it's like if you want to get to 100 doors, you don't want to be, you want the same amount of work, if not, a little bit more, but not, exponentially more work as you scale up. So that's huge. And I know now you're starting to do bigger things. You got this now bigger project in Puerto Rico, if I'm not wrong, right? So this first project, now it's number 2. What's this one going to be?
So this one is a big one. This one is an 8,000 square foot property. It's beachfront. It's 2 stories. It's a corner lot. And I'm in love with this property. It's a property that was damaged by Hurricane Maria. And so it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of rehab, but the potential is just exponential. So for give you an example, so the original, our first thought was getting this property to turn it into a guest house, a 7-room guest house. And we're currently working with engineers to get the drawings because we're trying to see if we can squeeze in like 7 to 9 rooms, like for short-term rental. But the property is so big that I can also put in there a coffee shop. I can also put in there a restaurant. And it's so versatile that even if I just keep the property as is, and I just renovated, I just remodeled the property and sell it as a house, as a crib, that is like, it would be a huge house, of 8,000 square foot, and I put a pool, the property will make money. The problem that I'm having is that property will require a lot of work. And even if I hire a general contractor, which is probably what we will do no matter what, just for simplicity, just because, again, time is of the essence. I don't want to be working with an electrician or a plumber and a designer. Like, I'd rather have just one general contractor. We still need to oversee that general contractor, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So for that particular project, we already have initial drawings. We already have initial assessments for exit strategies and everything. But we're looking for partners on that one. I think we've reached a point where we've gotten to a point where we really want a strategic partner, someone that is preferably like an engineer or designer, have some background in construction, not to build it. Although if you know anyone that is a builder in Puerto Rico and wants in, call me. we can give out the equity on that one, but ideally someone that will be overseeing the general contractor doing the building, and an equity partner that if you want to put money in, there's an opportunity there. I'm in love with that building. I think it's amazing, and I can show you some pictures. I have a PowerPoint that I put together. We can even share it on the screen if you want to. But I'm in love with the building because it provides so many exit strategies, and they're all profitable. And it's even in a location that even if you just buy and hold it and do nothing with it, just do your monthly payments if you're getting mortgage, it will appreciate by itself just because it's a corner lot beachfront. It just doesn't get any better than that. It's a great location. It's 17 minutes from San Juan Airport. So you land and 30 minutes later, you can be on your property. That could be an 8-room crib that you rented out on Airbnb for $3,000 a night. Or it could be a guest house with a restaurant, a coffee shop, and many other things.
Love it. That sounds amazing. I mean, I'm only imagining what that's going to look like, right? Because the before and afters on that one are just going to be, from what it sounds like right now, destroyed, and like kind of needs a lot of work towards the finished product, right? So excited for that. I might have somebody in Puerto Rico or for you. I'll see. Actually, I know he was in Puerto Rico and living. I don't know if he's still there. So I'll look and I'll let you know.
Please do connect me with Jan.
Yeah, happy to help. But that's awesome. Like, so when you first started, right? When you got your house in Baltimore, did you think that you would be at this point, right? Like doing this 8,000 foot beachfront property?
So look, I gotta be completely honest. So I'm a risk-averse person, and I think that may be true for our line of business. I'm a risk manager. So it's like everything is scary. And the first property I got, I said, I want to get it. And I went in Baltimore, and I got in Baltimore because I had a friend of mine that had some properties there. And I got my house, my property, that first house that I got, it was through auction. And I went on the auction website. I had been to Baltimore like multiple times where I actually just drove through the neighborhoods. Baltimore is a city of neighborhoods. And you look at it in Google Maps and it looks like all gridded, like pretty big city. It is not. Like it comes down to the neighborhood, and from one street to the next, you see massive differences in prices, in cleanliness, in occupancy. Like one street, 50% of the road is boarded. The next street over, only 2 houses are boarded up, and it's huge. You have to know the city. So I learned that early on. So I started like driving around, and I remember finding this property, and it was an auction property. And I looked in Google Maps, and I'm like, yeah, we've been around that area. And I told to my wife, what do you think? Let's go see. So obviously we put in a bid. Have not seen the house. Have not inspected it. Just put in bid online, like I'm on eBay, and I got the house. I won. I'm like, yay. When I drove there to see it, I was depressed because that house, you cannot see this on Google Maps, but it was literally on the other side of the tracks. There's literally like there's this neighborhood here, and there's a track that you can't see unless you actually zoom in really far. And then there was my neighborhood, and I thought it was the same one. And I was depressed. I almost cried. I'm like, what the H did I get myself into? Like, this is bad. You see, Eddie, what are you doing? You just keep doing what you're doing with your W-2 job. Stop thinking you're going to be a big time investor. And it took me a while. It was a shock for me because I thought it was a failure. And after I put myself together, I closed on the property, I rehabbed the property, and I rented it. Then I got better. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The going rate market rent for that area at the time was about $800, and I was able to put in a tenant for $1,050. So while I'm telling you, I was depressed and I was in shock, and I thought to myself, this is the worst decision of my life. Then I have a win where I push myself to the limit. I believe in myself a little bit more, And I got someone there. Everybody, every property manager I talked to said you will never get more than 850 out of here, and I got 1050. And that's when I realized, well, hey, I got something in here. I got something. I was able to convince someone that this house is worth $1,000 a month, when the market is not like that. And not just because I'm a great talker. I mean, the house itself looked amazing compared to the neighborhood. I was raising the standard on the neighborhood. I did a lot of things right that based on my values, and I was not treating it like, oh, that's just a rental. I'm never gonna live here. I'm saying, no, if I live here, I would like to see this. I would like to see stainless steel, even though it's not the best neighborhood in Baltimore. I want someone to be able to get stainless steel and have a nice house. And that was like a big win at the same time. Eventually, I ended up selling that property. I made like 15K on a $65,000 investment, which you look at the rate of return, it's like amazing. And that flipped the switch. So if I would have just gone by my first reaction, my first state of mind, I would have never been where I am today. And now I'm still pushing myself to the limit. I'm trying to buy a multifamily. Literally right before this call, I was talking to a lender, and I'm asking for $1.5 million on a loan. And it is scary because it's the first time I'm doing something that big. And the guy himself is like, well, have you ever done something like this? And I'm like, nope. Well, do you have any experience? He kept on like trying to see like, and I'm like, no, I don't have experience having anything that big. But if I do, it will position me to get 17 doors all at once, will position me to be where I want to be. So it's not where I'm coming from, it's more where I want to be. That's mindset. And that's something that I know you focus a lot on your writings. And that mindset, it wasn't there. That mindset, I put myself in there. I'm focusing more on where I want to be. I'm trying to listen less to my fears and be more practical. And because the reason I started, and my wife probably could admit whether I cried or not when I saw where that house in Baltimore was. I was crying, but it was out of fear. It was never a logical question. It was never about, hey, can I make this work? Do I have the tools? Do I have the skill set? Do I know who to call if I have questions? It was not about that. It was fear. And overcoming that fear of being successful, overcoming that fear, it's like, hey, no matter what this investment throws at me, I'm gonna be okay because I know how to. You can't teach that. You really have to just be positive and believe in yourself. And you can't teach that to someone. Telling someone believe in yourself enough that you can overcome whatever. It's like people will say, yeah, that's easy for you to say, but I'm not you. Well, you can be me, but you have to flip that switch. It's I don't know how to do it other than I did it, and I'm still flipping it every single day. I wake up and I'm a little bit fearful, and I'm like, screw it. I'm gonna flip the switch, and I'm gonna believe myself, and I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, it's momentum, right? Like you start doing that, you do it enough to where, things feel like, wow, that's a bigger one. That's a bigger fear. But hey, I've done things, right? I've conquered fears. So then it becomes easier to conquer more fears, right? It's weird how that works. Is it just an upward progression that way? So it's amazing. It's amazing. And I see you every day, man. So you're really tackling big things. I know multifamily is coming for you soon. So you're right there, brother. Putting it out into the universe.
I'm trying, man.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I guess what's next for you this year, right? You mentioned multifamily, this Airbnb project. Is that what were your kind of goals for the rest of the year?
So goals right now, short-term goals. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with this 8,000 square foot building, and whether I'm gonna continue with the development or I may need to wholesale it, just offload that completely and let someone else build it. I need to figure out what to do that. Getting 20 plus doors is in the books for me. Like I need to get 20 plus doors somewhere. Like I said, I met someone who's investing in Hagerstown, and I know we already talked about it, and we're a minute 38. But the mindset and putting yourself out there. How I got to this other person was crazy, and it's because this is someone who I met. My kid plays soccer, and I met another parent. We were both cheering for our kids, and I don't know how I can't tell you exactly what the conversation was. I was talking to someone else and I said something about investing. And then all of a sudden this guy is like, oh, investing. I got a couple of properties. And I'm like, oh, what about? One thing led to another. This is the guy that has over 30 doors. And then all of a sudden he's in Hagerstown. And I'm like, oh my God, Hagerstown is like an hour from me. And he knows a lot of people in Hagerstown. He knows all the wholesalers, all the real. And it happened because I pushed myself up there. So hopefully this is gonna, my relationship with him is gonna grow, and he's gonna help me like get there. But what's in the works for me? I want to get into the 20 doors this year before the end of the year, and I want 2 more short-term rentals in Puerto Rico. Something close to the beach, something that is accessible, and something that it's an opportunity for me to do value add, where I can just get a distressed property, rehab it, fix it up, and put it on the market. Because now I have a team. Now I have everything figured out. I just need to. And one thing that sometimes you can also understand is like, I have a team, but if I don't keep feeding this team, other investors will. And that's a risk for me when we're talking about managing risk. If I wait too long to acquire my second property and my third property in Puerto Rico, well, my handyman, who's my, he's my go-to person, he's gonna go to someone else. Somebody else is gonna find him. They're gonna know their potential, and they're gonna keep him busy 100% of the time. So the only way I can do this is if I'm the one keeping him busy. So going at a faster speed is advantageous to me. Instead of like, oh, I'll just wait and see. It's like, no, I just want to get to a level where my people are so busy, they only report to me. Because it took me a very long time. Well, not a long time. It took me a lot of effort to build my team the way I wanted. But if I don't keep him busy, that attrition is going to happen. That guy is going to be busy with other projects, and then I have to find others. So I really got my 20 doors, get 2 more Airbnbs in Puerto Rico, and figure out what I'm going to do with that 8,000 square foot building.
Love it. All right, man. No, that's awesome. Those are some big goals for this year. So we're gonna help you get there. So for
Thanks,
anybody
man.
that wants to like reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Email is definitely the best way. You can email me at eddie@eduardoconde.com, which is my name that is on the Zoom screen. So eddie@eduardoconde.com. And that's really like the best way. Even if you call me, I won't answer because I spend my whole day on the phone. Like literally my whole day, it's on a phone call. But emails I check all throughout the day.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put that in the notes as well. So for anybody that wants to
Mhm.
reach out, they can just click it. Awesome. Well, hey, Eduardo, I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I know so many people are going to get value from this. So thank you again for coming on today.
Thanks a lot, Samir. I really appreciate, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're really killing it. It has been a pleasure to stay in touch with you. I appreciate that. For those of you that don't know, Samir is amazing. And when you text him, you say, hey, can you underwrite? Can you give me comps for anything, even commercial stuff? I won't say here on the air, but things that I've emailed say, hey, can you check this property, this specific type of property for me? Samir has come back in like 6 hours. Say, hey, here are the comps, this is how much it is. So I really appreciate your support and everything you do, man.
Of course, man. Thank you. It means a lot. All right, brother. Take care.
All right, man.